For decades, American riders were told that real motorcycles cost real money. If you wanted reliability, stability, and pride of ownership, you paid the premium and accepted the weight, the heat, and the maintenance. That used to be true, but quietly, the market has shifted. Today, brand new Chinese motorcycles are arriving with fuel injection, ABS, lighter chassis, and simpler ownership costs, often thousands less than comparable American bikes. And when we say outperform, we're not talking about dyno charts or bragging rights. We're talking about cold starts, predictable handling, maintenance access, and real miles. Watch this one through to the end, because which bikes are moving forward and which brands are falling behind may not be what you expect. Number 14, QJ Motor SRK 250. Value often reveals itself first in machines that ask little and give back consistency. The SRK 250 enters the conversation as a reminder that simplicity still carries authority when engineering is honest and expectations are realistic. It is not trying to replace heavyweight cruisers or rewrite legacy history. Instead, it focuses on everyday reliability, manageable power, and predictable behavior that seasoned riders quietly respect once the novelty wears off. This motorcycle suits riders who understand that confidence grows from control, not excess. The upright posture keeps weight centered. Steering inputs feel natural rather than rushed. Visibility remains clear in traffic and tight spaces. For experienced riders, that calm balance translates into less fatigue and fewer surprises. For newer riders, it offers an entry point without intimidation or artificial sharpness. Build quality shows intention rather than shortcuts. Panel fit stays tight. Switchgear feels deliberate. The overall layout favors maintenance access and long-term ownership instead of flashy distractions. It is the kind of motorcycle that disappears beneath you once rolling, letting the rider focus on surroundings instead of corrections. That trait matters more than raw numbers after enough miles accumulate. Power delivery remains linear, making throttle control predictable during low-speed maneuvers and steady cruising alike. Braking response is firm, without abrupt bite. Suspension compliance favors stability over drama, keeping the ride settled across imperfect pavement. Horsepower measures at 27 from a 249 cubic centimeters engine, producing 16 pound-feet of torque. Using an anti-lock braking system with front disc braking, inverted front suspension with a rear monoshock, a wet weight of 341 pounds, a seat height of 30.7 inches, and a starting price of $4,100. This foundation sets the stage for machines that begin adding complexity and ambition. Number 13, Zontes U200. Practical strength often shows up in motorcycles built for discipline instead of image. The U200 earns its place by focusing on balance, visibility, and mechanical confidence rather than trying to impress on paper. It carries itself like a tool meant to be used daily, not a trophy meant to be admired from a distance. That mindset resonates with riders who value control and predictability above trends. The riding position stays upright and neutral, keeping strain off the wrists and shoulders. Bars fall naturally into place, and the chassis responds without hesitation. Experienced riders will notice how little effort it takes to keep the bike composed in traffic or uneven pavement. Nothing feels rushed or twitchy, which becomes more valuable with every mile logged. Design choices lean toward durability. The frame feels solid. Body panels stay purposeful instead of ornamental. Controls operate with a firm, mechanical feel that inspires trust. This motorcycle does not ask the rider to adapt to it. It adapts quietly to the rider instead. Power delivery remains smooth and usable. Throttle response avoids abruptness, allowing steady progress without surprises. Braking confidence builds gradually, reinforcing control rather than forcing correction. Suspension tuning favors stability, keeping the bike settled through imperfect surfaces and routine obstacles. Horsepower reaches 20 from a 198 cubic centimeters engine, producing 13 pound-feet of torque. equipped with an anti-lock braking system using front and rear disc brakes, inverted front suspension paired with a rear monoshock, a wet weight of 331 pounds, a seat height of 31.5 inches, and a starting price of $3,500. This controlled approach leads directly into motorcycles that begin stretching performance without sacrificing composure. If this breakdown is challenging what you thought you knew, take a second to support the channel. Hit like, subscribe for Rider First Analysis, and share your take below. Real experience matters here, and your voice shapes what we uncover next. Number 12. CF Moto 150NK. Lightweight control becomes noticeable the moment precision starts outweighing power. The 150NK earns its spot by staying honest about what winter actually requires. Control, predictability, and manageable weight matter more than peak speed once frost and road salt enter the picture. This motorcycle works because it never overwhelms the rider. Steering remains neutral at slow speeds. Throttle response stays calm on cold pavement. Short wheelbase geometry helps when maneuvering through damp intersections and uneven winter surfaces. Older riders appreciate a bike that listens instead of argues, especially when visibility shrinks and reaction time matters. There is also something reassuring about modern fuel injection paired with modest output. Cold starts are consistent. Idle remains steady. No choke rituals, no drama. The 150NK lets you focus on riding lines, braking early, and staying upright rather than wrestling excess power in poor conditions. For seasoned riders, this kind of machine becomes a seasonal tool. It keeps skills sharp without risking heavy equipment. It makes short rides worthwhile, even when daylight is limited. It proves winter riding is not about toughness. It is about judgment. In practical terms, the 150NK produces 14 horsepower from a 149 cubic centimeter single-cylinder engine delivering 10 pound-feet of torque, uses front and rear disc braking with integrated anti-lock braking system, runs telescopic front suspension with a rear monoshock, carries a wet weight of 296 pounds, has a seat height of 31.5 inches, and starts at $2,500. A shift toward taller stance and longer travel reveals how posture begins to influence control. While the numbers tell their story, keep your ride dialed, solid, road-tested gear, and accessories are waiting in the description. Number 11. Lifan X Piegt 200. An upright stance can change how a rider reads the road and reacts to it. Upright ergonomics reduce strain, while longer suspension keeps the chassis composed on broken pavement and uneven shoulders. This bike encourages measured riding. Steering inputs feel deliberate. Braking remains predictable. The riding position keeps your eyes up and your weight centered, which matters when surfaces change without warning. For riders with decades behind them, that sense of command builds confidence quickly. Ownership is straightforward. Routine service is accessible. Parts availability is simple. Nothing about the X-Piegt 200 demands specialized tools or constant attention. It rewards mechanical sympathy and regular care. The same principles older machines lived by for years. What stands out most is how approachable it feels. The seat height allows easy footing. The bars fall naturally to hand. You are not folded in, stretched out, or perched awkwardly. It feels like a motorcycle meant to be used, not displayed. In practical terms, the X-Piegt 200 delivers 18 horsepower from a 199 cubic centimeter single-cylinder engine, producing 12 pound-feet of torque, uses a front disc brake with rear drum braking, runs telescopic front suspension with a rear monoshock, carries a wet weight of 310 pounds, has a seat height of 32.7 inches, and starts at $3,000. Moving away from lightweight minimalism introduces a machine built with durability clearly in mind. Number 10. Zongshen AZS 200 GY10. Durability shows itself when a motorcycle keeps its composure on neglected pavement. Tall stance and simple construction give the rider control without demanding aggression or constant correction. This bike feels purposeful from the first mile. The upright position reduces fatigue. The longer wheel travel absorbs rough pavement and neglected back roads. Steering stays calm, even when surfaces change suddenly. For riders with years of experience, that predictability matters more than speed or styling. Ownership is straightforward. The ZS 200 GY10 does not overwhelm with electronics or layered systems. Maintenance stays accessible. Components are easy to inspect and service. That simplicity builds trust over time, especially for riders who still turn their own wrenches. What stands out is how confidence grows with familiarity. The higher bars give leverage. The narrow profile makes low speed balance easier. Footing at stops feels secure. This is a machine that works with the rider rather than asking to be managed. For riders who value function over fashion, the ZS 200 GY10 represents honest engineering and practical intent. In practical terms, the ZS 200 GY10 produces 16 horsepower from a 199 cubic centimeter single-cylinder engine delivering 14 pound-feet of torque, uses front and rear disc braking, runs telescopic front suspension with a rear monoshock, carries a wet weight of 330 pounds, has a seat height of 33 inches, and starts at $3,500. Refinement enters the picture next, bringing a more street-focused balance without abandoning practicality. Number 9. Vogue 300R. Refinement does not have to mean complexity to earn a rider's trust. The riding position feels natural, the controls respond cleanly, and nothing about the bike tries to dominate the rider. The 300R rewards smooth inputs. Steering is light without being twitchy. Throttle response stays linear, allowing precise control in traffic and on uneven pavement. The chassis feels composed, encouraging relaxed riding instead of constant correction. That calm behavior builds trust over time. Ownership reflects the same philosophy. Service access is straightforward, components are modern but durable. Riders who value mechanical transparency appreciate a motorcycle that communicates clearly. What stands out most is how usable the power feels. Acceleration stays strong enough to manage traffic without becoming abrupt. The bike carries its weight low, helping balance at stops and slow maneuvers. This motorcycle proves that confidence does not come from excess. It comes from harmony between rider and machine, something seasoned riders understand deeply. In practical terms, the 300AR produces 30 horsepower from a 292 cubic centimeter single-cylinder engine, delivering 19 pound-feet of torque, uses front and rear disc braking with integrated anti-lock braking system, runs telescopic front suspension with a rear monoshock, carries a wet weight of 357 pounds, has a seat height of 31 inches, and starts at $4,000. A sharper design philosophy shows how bodywork and focus can change the riding experience. Number 8. Vogue 300RR. Focused design reveals its value when airflow and posture begin working together. Bodywork directs air around the rider, while the clip-on bars and rear set pegs encourage deliberate inputs. This bike rewards attention. Steering feels precise without becoming nervous. Braking response stays progressive, giving the rider time to adjust pressure smoothly. Experienced riders recognize how important that predictability becomes once roads are less than perfect. The 300RR also respects physical limits. The seat allows reasonable reach to the ground. The fairing reduces fatigue over longer rides. Nothing feels excessive and nothing feels fragile. This is a sport-focused machine that still respects experience. It appeals to riders who remember lighter sport bikes that communicated clearly, where feedback mattered more than numbers, and where discipline and technique were part of the ride, not optional extras added later by software layers or marketing promises from corporate brochures and showrooms everywhere. In practical terms, the 300RR produces 29 horsepower from a 292 cubic centimeter single-cylinder engine, delivering 19 pound-feet of torque, uses front and rear disc, braking with integrated anti-lock braking system, runs inverted front forks with a rear monoshock, carries a wet weight of 357 pounds, has a seat height of 30.7 inches, and starts at $5,000. Returning to a neutral riding position highlights why balance often beats aggression. Number 7. CF Moto 250NK. Balanced geometry often delivers more confidence than outright performance ever could. The riding position is neutral, the controls fall naturally to hand, and the bike feels cooperative rather than insistent. This motorcycle encourages smooth riding habits. Throttle response stays measured. Steering inputs remain predictable. Braking effort feels proportional, not abrupt. For riders with decades of miles behind them, that kind of behavior builds trust quickly. You are never fighting the machine or correcting mistakes caused by excess power. The 250NK also strikes a practical balance between simplicity and modern refinement. Fuel injection improves consistency. Instrumentation stays clear and readable. There is no sense of unnecessary complication. Everything feels purposeful and accessible, which matters to riders who value function over flash. What stands out is how comfortable the bike feels over time. The seat supports without forcing posture. The suspension absorbs rough surfaces without wallowing. The bike remains composed at typical riding speeds, allowing the rider to focus on surroundings instead of managing instability. This is a motorcycle that respects experience. It does not chase trends or imitate larger machines. It delivers confidence through restraint. In practical terms, the 250NK produces 27 horsepower from a 249 cubic centimeter single-cylinder engine, delivering 22 pound-feet of torque. Uses front and rear disc, braking with integrated anti-lock braking system. Runs telescopic front suspension with a rear monoshock. Carries a wet weight of 357 pounds. Has a seat height of 31 inches. And starts at $3,900. Increasing displacement starts to reveal how stability grows with measured power. If you value straight talk without brand loyalty blinders, make sure you're subscribed. This channel exists for riders who want facts, history, and real-world perspective. Staying subscribed means you won't miss the shifts others only notice too late anymore today. Number 6. Lifan KP 350. Middleweight machines tend to hit a practical sweet spot many riders eventually appreciate. The KP 350 sits squarely in that space. It feels substantial enough to inspire trust while remaining approachable for everyday riding. The riding position is relaxed without being passive. Bars sit naturally. Foot pegs fall where experienced riders expect them. Nothing forces adaptation. That familiarity allows focus on traffic, road surface, and judgment rather than posture. Power delivery is smooth and usable. Acceleration builds without surprises. Steering remains neutral through corners. Braking response stays predictable, encouraging measured inputs instead of last-second corrections. This balance appeals to riders who value consistency over excitement. Ownership favors practicality. The design avoids unnecessary complexity. Routine service is straightforward. Components are accessible. For riders who still maintain their own machines, that matters. Confidence grows when you understand what is beneath you. The KP350 also carries a certain honesty. It does not pretend to be larger or more aggressive than it is. It simply works. That attitude resonates with riders who have owned enough motorcycles to recognize restraint as a virtue. In practical terms, the KP350 produces 40 horsepower from a 349 cubic centimeter single-cylinder engine, delivering 31 pound-feet of torque. Uses front and rear disc braking with integrated anti-lock braking system. Runs inverted front forks with a rear monoshock. Carries a wet weight of 370 pounds. Has a seat height of 31 inches. And starts at $4,800. True middleweight performance arrives when smooth delivery replaces restraint. Number 5. CF Moto 400NK. Smooth delivery becomes the defining trait once riding settles into a steady rhythm. The 400 NK lands in that sweet middle, where weight, response, and control work together instead of fighting each other. It feels grown up without becoming bulky. The chassis remains stable through sweeping corners, while the engine delivers its power in a measured, predictable way. Seasoned riders notice how little correction is required. That reduced mental load makes longer rides less taxing and daily use more enjoyable. The 400 NK also marks a shift toward true middleweight practicality. There is enough mass to stay planted at speed, yet it never feels top-heavy or unwieldy. Comfort comes from balance, not padding. The seat supports the rider without locking posture, and the controls stay intuitive. For those who have owned larger machines, this bike feels refreshingly manageable without feeling small. It suits riders who respect torque delivery, visibility, and stability, preferring machines that respond calmly, rather than shout for attention during everyday miles ridden consistently. In practical terms, the 400 NK produces 43 horsepower from a 400 cubic centimeter parallel twin engine, delivering 27 pound-feet of torque, uses front and rear disc, braking with integrated anti-lock braking system, runs telescopic front suspension with a rear monoshock, carries a wet weight of 405 pounds, has a seat height of 31 inches, and starts at $5,500. Adding coverage and comfort shifts the conversation from control to endurance. Number 4. CF Mo On. 400 GT. Extended comfort starts to separate occasional rides from machines built for distance. Riders who value distance understand why that matters. The riding position stays upright without feeling passive, allowing long hours without strain. Fairing design manages airflow and reduces fatigue in a way naked machines simply cannot. This motorcycle rewards steady pace. The chassis tracks cleanly through sweepers and remains composed when surfaces deteriorate. The extra bodywork brings a sense of calm that experienced riders appreciate. You sit into the bike rather than on it, which builds confidence over time. Practicality continues throughout the design. Storage options reduce dependence on backpacks, and coverage protects the rider from constant exposure. The 400 GT appeals to riders who want one machine that can handle longer miles without demanding constant adjustment. It delivers comfort without drifting into excess or weighty indulgence. This balance explains its place here. It respects experience, values composure, and acknowledges that comfort is part of control. Riders who have spent decades on touring machines recognize that refinement matters as much as power. The 400 GT produces 43 horsepower from a 400 cubic centimeter parallel twin engine, delivering 27 pound-feet of torque, uses front and rear disc braking with anti-lock braking system, runs front suspension with a rear monoshock, carries a weight of 427 pounds, has a seat height of 31.7 inches, and starts at $6,000. More mass and torque introduce a planted feel that seasoned riders recognize immediately. Number 3. CF Moto 650 NK. Added mass and torque introduce a sense of stability seasoned riders recognize immediately. It carries enough mass to feel composed at speed while remaining manageable for riders who value balance over flash. The riding position is upright and familiar, allowing long stretches without tension in the shoulders or lower back. Power delivery defines the experience. The engine pulls with authority, but never rushes. Throttle inputs feel measured, predictable, and easy to modulate. That smoothness builds confidence and reduces fatigue over time. Experienced riders recognize how valuable that restraint becomes during long days in the saddle. Chassis behavior reinforces that impression. Steering tracks cleanly through sweepers. The bike holds its line without constant correction. Braking response feels progressive rather than abrupt, encouraging calm inputs and deliberate riding. This is not a machine that demands attention. It rewards patience and steady hands. Ownership also reflects maturity. Service access is straightforward. The layout avoids unnecessary clutter. Everything feels designed for riders who intend to put miles on the odometer rather than polish chrome in the garage. The 650 NK respects experience by staying honest and predictable. In practical terms, the 650 NK produces 61 horsepower from a 649 cubic centimeter parallel twin engine, delivering 41 pound-feet of torque, uses front and rear disc braking with integrated anti-lock braking system, runs inverted front forks with a rear monoshock, carries a wet weight of 454 pounds, has a seat height of 31.7 inches, and starts at $6,499. Versatility takes center stage when posture and suspension begin working together. Number 2, Vogue DS 525X. Versatility becomes essential when one motorcycle is expected to handle varied demands. It is built for riders who value upright comfort, long-range confidence, and mechanical durability over fashion or flash. The riding position feels natural, keeping weight centered and vision clear. What separates the DS525X is composure. The chassis absorbs uneven pavement without drama. Steering remains deliberate and calm. The suspension allows the bike to stay planted even when surfaces deteriorate. Riders with decades of experience recognize how valuable that stability becomes on long days. Comfort plays a central role. The seat supports without forcing posture. The bars reduce strain on shoulders and wrists. The overall layout encourages endurance rather than aggression. This is a motorcycle designed to be ridden for hours, not minutes. Ownership reflects that same thinking. The design favors accessibility. Routine service remains straightforward. Components feel robust instead of delicate. Nothing about the bike feels rushed or overcomplicated. It respects riders who intend to use their machines, not just admire them. The Diaz 525X also carries a sense of restraint. Power delivery stays smooth. Torque arrives early and predictably. The bike never feels frantic. It rewards calm inputs and steady judgment, traits seasoned riders value deeply. In practical terms, the D's 525X produces 53 horsepower from a 518 cubic centimeter parallel twin engine, delivering 39 pound-feet of torque, uses front and rear disc braking with integrated anti-lock braking system, runs inverted front forks with a rear monoshock, carries a wet weight of 480 pounds, has a seat height of 33.8 inches, and starts at $7,000. All those elements finally converge in a machine built around composure, trust, and long-term use. Number 1. CF Moto 650 MT. Everything learned along the way points toward a machine built around composure and trust. The 650 MT represents that mindset clearly. It is built for riders who value upright control, usable torque, and all-day composure over sharp edges or styling statements. The riding position feels natural, with weight carried evenly and visibility kept high. What defines the 650 MT is confidence over distance. The chassis remains planted. Steering inputs stay deliberate. The bike does not rush the rider or demand constant correction. That calm behavior reduces fatigue and allows focus to stay where it belongs, on the road and surroundings. Comfort is not an afterthought here. The seat supports without forcing posture. The bars reduce strain through the shoulders and wrists. Suspension tuning favors stability instead of drama. Riders who have spent decades on touring machines recognize this balance immediately. Ownership reflects the same maturity. Service access remains straightforward. Components feel durable. Nothing about the 650 MT seems fragile or overcomplicated. It feels designed to be ridden regularly, not preserved. That honesty resonates with riders who value function over fashion. This motorcycle earns its place by doing many things well without trying to impress. it respects experience. It rewards steady judgment. It proves that versatility and composure matter more than hype. In practical terms, the 650MT produces 61 horsepower from a 649 cubic centimeter parallel twin engine, delivering 41 pound-feet of torque. Uses front and rear disc braking with integrated anti-lock braking system. Runs inverted front forks with a rear monoshock. Carries a wet weight of 481 pounds, has a seat height of 33 inches, and starts at $7,100. Motorcycles have always been about freedom, but freedom only lasts when riders stay informed. What you've seen here isn't hype, it's a shift. And experience tells us those who ignore change pay for it later. If this breakdown helped, tap like so it reaches riders who still care about the truth. Subscribe if you want straight talk without brand blinders. And most important, drop a comment. What have you ridden? What lasted? And where do you see the market heading next?